Hey Gear Seekers, I'm Nick. Your eyes are not deceiving you. Yes, NZXT finally replaced the H510 with this. The NZXT H5 Flow. It's a brand new case with lots of new little biddies up its sleeve. But before that, make sure you actually subscribe because YouTube's got an unsub glitch going on where they keep denying it's happening, but it's actually happening. We've been affected by it, all you guys have been telling us. So yeah, get yourself subscribed if you want to see more videos like this. Anyway, we're taking a look at this awesome new case from NZXT. It's about time that they listened to what everybody actually wanted. Let's see if they executed. All right, here it is, ladies and gents, the brand new NZXT H5 Flow. Let's start off with panel removal. It's got a single thumb screw on the glass panel, and basically you just pull it off, pop it off, and pull it away from the case. Yes, it's a little bit rattly. Now, this isn't a tinted glass panel, so it's not gonna look any different. Rear panel, same deal, except this has got two thumb screws. Loosen the bottom one, loosen the top one, and pull the panel away from the case. And lastly, the front panel, if you wanted to pop it off, you can just grab it by the corner here with your thumb, just pull it forward, and you can lift that front panel away from the case. Because we have the Flow version of the case, there is an open front panel and it's got a removable dust filter as well, which can just be popped out like that and clipped back in. There's a magnetic dust filter on the top of the case as well, and there's one for the power supply as well. The cable management appears to be quite similar to what we saw with the brand new NZXT H7 that released a few months ago. We've got these Velcro tie down points along the back, which creates a cable channel. We've got these bits of metal here, which have lips that will hold all the cables in. So it just makes it a little bit easier to hook cables behind it so things don't fly around all over the place. There's also some tie down points along this edge here. And it's got that NZXT cable management bar that I don't think they'll ever get rid of really on their cases. There's also a bunch of tie downs along the bottom of the tray, as well as another Velcro tie down for your EPS power connector as well, with quite a large cutout across the top, which is nice to see because NZXT has typically made that pretty difficult in the past, but I feel like they finally listened and opened that up. Hard disk and SSD mounting options are actually quite limited here, and I've been saying this for such a long time that I'm not even sad to see this go at all, to be honest. So you've got provisions here for two 2.5-inch SSDs. So if you were to install an SSD either here or here, and this one will also allow for a 3.5-inch spinning rush drive if that's something you wanted to do. There's no hard disk cage at all, which I'm actually happy with because as you can see, this case does share some heritage with the H510 because it has this removable bracket at the front. It's removable with two thumb screws as they've always done, which kind of leads us into fan and radiator support. At the front, you can do up to a 280mm radiator or a 240 if that's what you like, two 120mm fans, two 140mm fans, but now at the top, finally NZXT has listened, we can do up to a 240mm radiator up the top or two 120mm fans up the top as well. There are two included fans in this case. There's one mounted at the rear, it's a 120mm fan. These are not PWM fans, these are DC powered fans. There's also another fan here at the bottom of the case as well for GPU intake. This is actually quite a clever solution. We don't need hard disk cages anymore, and this is a good use of that space at the front as well. So just give you a little bit of extra airflow. Now you might be thinking, well, that idea is really cool. Is it pulling air from the fourth dimension? There is separate intake on the bottom of the case for that GPU fan scoop, let's call it that. It also has a removable dust filter, and the whole fan assembly is removable as well. To remove the fan assembly, it's as easy as removing these two screws here, and then the whole fan assembly can be removed through the top of the case here. One thing to note though is if you're wanting to remove this fan assembly, you need to remove the front fan and radiator bracket. The bottom scoop is also removable as well if you wanted to completely remove this fan assembly, but why would you? It would make no sense whatsoever. As well as that, you can change the fan on here as well. The screws will allow you to install basically any 120mm fan down here. In terms of motherboard support, the H5 Flow will support from ITX up to ATX, not eATX, because of this cable bar. However, if you really wanted to remove the cable bar, I'm sure you could make it fit if you wanted to, but I would recommend probably not going that route with this case. I also thought it was worth mentioning that the CPU air cooler height for this case is 165mm, and I think at the time of this case releasing, NZXT is releasing a bunch of air coolers along with these cases. The H5 Flow supports up to a 365mm long GPU. This is the RTX 4090. This is the tough gaming one from Asus, and this will fit in. However, already you can see that if you're wanting to mount a front radiator, this GPU is not going to fit. You should be able to mount front fans though, because you can mount it on the other side of the bracket, but yeah, you can see that there's just not heaps of room for activities, and even if I slide this bracket out and push it into its full location, you're quite limited for space here. So I would really recommend choosing the right GPU for this case. Speaking of, this will actually allow you to mount vertical GPUs as well with a vertical GPU mounting kit. And you can go for any vertical GPU mounting kit here. Doesn't have any support bracing along the back of it, which will allow you to take all the rear IO brackets out and have it completely open. So you can do whatever you want up the back there. For internal case wiring, we've got a USB 3.2 Type A front panel connector, a USB Type-C front panel connector, as well as the single block for all the front panel connectors for the lights and switches and everything for power and whatnot. I like this, more cases should do this. There's also the front panel audio connector as well. On the front panel / top panel, we've got a combined headphone and microphone jack, a USB Type-C port, a USB Type-A port, and the power button, which doubles as the power light and hard disk activity light. There's one last thing to mention. There's something weird that I noticed, but weird in a good way, is you see these little bits here? These are punch outs for running cables underneath the case, because NZXT makes a case underglow kit. So instead of drilling your own holes now, they actually have punch outs that you can push out if you want to use them to pass cables underneath the case. So that's the only use for what that would actually be for. That's basically everything you need to know about the NZXT H5 Flow, but we need to get to building to figure out if this thing is worth your hard-earned money. Let's do a build. All right, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the build in the brand new NZXT H5 Flow. But as usual, let's take a little bit of a look at the thermals here with this new case from NZXT. What you're seeing on your screen right now is the thermals are actually really, really good. Now, you would have noticed that I did some testing without all of the filters being on because this has so many filters. I usually do this with our thermal testing, and I pulled the filter off the bottom of the case for that new GPU intake scoop. Let's keep calling it the intake scoop. And what we're seeing is the filters do affect the thermals quite a bit. However, keep in mind that anytime you install a liquid cooler at the top of your case, I always say this, I recommend not using that top filter because it usually drops the thermals quite a bit. So yeah, that's basically the story with this case. I'm not going to get into all of the parts in this build. I'll put a PC part picker list down below just so you guys can know what they all are. But just as a bit of a quick reference, I used the Intel Core i5 13600K on a 240mm liquid cooler because I haven't cooled it with one of these coolers yet, and I was curious to know what the thermal's like. And for the GPU, I went with an RTX 3080 because I feel like a 4090 would just, basically because of the size, it's just too tight and I didn't want to have to deal with that. And plus, it's a white GPU in a white case, right? It looks awesome having this GPU. But what about the NZXT H5 Flow as a case? The build quality and the construction of the case is really, really good. It is similar to what we saw with the NZXT H7, except they shrunk the whole case down. The fact that NZXT removed the hard disk cages in the bottom of this case, well, actually they just didn't put them in at all. They didn't remove anything. I think it's awesome. It's a step in the right direction. Most people don't use more than 2 spinning ROS drives as it is, so the fact that it's got mounting for at least one and an SSD is more than enough for anybody. Most motherboards that you get these days will have between 2 to 3 M.2 slots, and the price for those drives has come down considerably. It is nice that they thought of that little space at the front of the case being more than just somewhere you put a hard disk cage, and to have it as an intake for the GPU, because as GPUs get more power hungry and as they get hotter, we're gonna need more airflow. I like the idea, and we've seen other cases do it in the past, but sometimes it doesn't actually add to the thermal performance and the thermal headroom of a case. And from what I can see here, I don't think it adds that much more, because we've seen other cases with this GPU get almost exactly the same temperatures. As much as people like the H510 and as good as the value for money is with that case, it's kind of crap for airflow. Even when they did the H510 Flow, it was pretty average because you only had one exhaust out the top. And this just takes it to a whole new level with having the whole top of the case open. I'm glad NZXT finally listened to what everybody wanted with this really simple thing. Now, I'm not saying that this case is groundbreaking and it's doing something that we've never ever seen before, because it's really not. All it's showing is that NZXT is finally catching up to every other case manufacturer on the planet with having the top of their case open. It's about time, but I think it's about, let's say, 6 years overdue. So good work, NZXT, for catching up after like 6 years. A for effort. We'll give you a gold star, I suppose. Everyone's gonna praise this case for being the best case ever, but there's quite literally hundreds of cases that have done exactly what this case is doing. NZXT has one thing that a lot of other case manufacturers don't have, and that is they turned a glass box into a work of art once again. This case may be pretty pedestrian, but it looks so freaking good because of how simple it is, and that's NZXT's superpower. They can make a glass box look like a work of art, and this case looks fantastic. It's not groundbreaking, it's not something that we haven't seen before, but it looks really, really good. I'm guessing you want to know what the deal with the pricing is. Well, you're in luck, ladies and gents, because there's actually not just the Flow version. There is the Elite version with the glass front, but when NZXT was like, hey, do you want to check out that? I'm like, no, I don't want a closed glass front case. I can just buy the H510 if I wanted a closed front. But if you're interested in the H5 Flow, they're going for $95 US or around 149 Aussie dollars at the time of filming this video. The price isn't expensive, it's not cheap, it's right there in the middle, and this is where this case lies, right in the middle. And I can tell you right now, for a fact, this thing, because it's NZXT, because it's this form factor, it's going to sell like hotcakes, because we saw how popular the H500 and the H510 was. This is replacing those cases. I like it, and I really think you guys are gonna like it too, because, as I've said in the past, you're allowed to like things. Anyways, guys, if you like the music you heard here, I make all the music. It's available by clicking that join button right down there, down below, it's down there somewhere. Click it if you want the music, and if you like videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 200,000 subscribers. Just click the subscribe button. We do lots of nice content here. Click the like button if you like it. I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You peek, we seek. And ladies and gents, you are allowed to like things, right? You're allowed. You're a human, hopefully. You're a person. You're whoever you are, and you are allowed to like things. I like it. You'll like it too. Thanks for watching.